What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 729 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week podcast. Of course, I am your host as always, Tony Mango, and joining me as always are Callum Williams.
Hello.
And Rob D. Felice.
Hello.
And all of you who are joining us should chime in with your thoughts below on the comment section of whatever it is that you're listening to us on. If you are not listening to us on something where you can leave a comment, then head on over to any of the other ones that you can. Go to smarkhelmet.com, send out a tweet, something like that. We got our Discord channel that you can join. Chat it up. Talk about Sari. Unnecessary shot I needed to take there. If you even know what the joke is, if you are in the chat. And, if you are on YouTube, then make sure that you also hit the like button, subscribe, ring your notification bell. No post show immediately following the Full Gear pay-per-view for tomorrow, because I am going to have my high school reunion. So I'm not going to be around my usual equipment and everything like that. But, we'll talk about that in some fashion. We will get into our updated predictions for that on this podcast, though. But keep in mind that, in the future, we do the post shows, so set up those email alerts if you don't already have that. And if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, there's a bunch of different ways for you to do it. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick up your merchandise, which I'm pretty sure everything's going to be on sale from now until probably towards like Christmas or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that. So if you want to get like a hat, t-shirt, something like that, that's probably your best time to do it. And if you want to just donate directly, the live chat, the thanks button, and the join button, that'll give you access to the different tiers that we have over on Patreon as well. So if you want the Darkcast podcasts or you want anything else along those lines, that's where you can find that stuff. So the lineup that we have for this episode, some of the stuff's going back a little bit past when we should have talked about it because we forgot to talk about one of the things. But I feel like we should probably backtrack and talk about something that was a pretty big topic that we, for some reason, just all three of us completely spaced out on last week, which was the whole Tegan Nox thing in AEW. And since then, I haven't seen anything else that's come out about this to maybe clarify anything more. But Tegan Nox and Miranda Alizé, is that how she pronounces it?
Yes.
Alizé, not Elise. They had been, set up to do an appearance for AEW. They had a couple little appearances prior and walked out. And it seems to me, from what I've gathered, maybe you guys have more information than I do, that they were booked for a standard tag team match. It got cut short on the time. It would have been maybe like more of a squash, and they decided, doesn't work for me, brother, and left. And now the two people that had to replace them are people that Tony Khan's thinking about signing. Lots of people have talked about this in roundabout ways. They've tweeted things out and said things, like, I think it was Dustin Rhodes had said something along the lines of like, if you are given a task, you do it and you try to make the best out of it and try to impress, and maybe that leads to a job, like standard things that would make a lot of sense. And I haven't heard any real positives on their end of anybody defending them, saying, yeah, this was absolutely, a crap situation and they deserved to walk out. Seems like it's just kind of a too big for my britches type of situation. And I don't know. It seems like career suicide in a lot of ways. What do you guys think about it?
I think that's the biggest thing coming out of this is when they went on Twitch to explain themselves. One of the things that Nixon Newell, Tegan Nox, had said was, well, yeah, I'm done by the end of next year anyway, and I just want to kind of have fun, and it is what it is. There were no hard feelings. The vibe I got was probably just like, man, I just came from a place where I was doing nothing but 2-minute matches. I just don't feel like doing it. Not the way to go about things, but like, maybe that's the route they chose. There was also something about Miranda no-selling Marina's finisher, and that was like, weird.
Was it Miranda or was it Tegan that like sandbagged Megan Bayne or something? Right?
There was a spot in the match where both Elise and Newell were supposed to be a double German suplex by Megan Bayne. and that they get and yeah, they're accused of like sandbagging because you can kind of see Bane's frustration after the move happening because she actually had to put a lot more effort into lifting them up over her head. So that might also be true for the other aspect as well.
Because I had noticed that, which was, by the way, the only bit that I had actually noticed when watching any of their stuff was, I believe it was Miranda got right up after taking the mother's milk, and I was like, well, that was shitty. You know, I think career suicide would be apropos, but I also don't think they care too much, which is unfortunate because I hate when a really talented person just sort of loses the passion, and that kind of feels like what's happened here. But I could be wrong. What do you think, Cal?
I think, well, obviously, it's just them being quite uppity about this whole thing. I feel like maybe it's just the cynical nature of me, but I feel like the reason why they're saying, or Newell is saying something along the lines of, I'm going to be gone in a year anyway, so it's no hard feelings, doesn't really matter too much, is because that wasn't her intention when she went into AEW to try and get a few matches, but now pretty much that door will probably be slammed firmly shut in her face. Now she's thinking, oh yeah, I'm only going to be gone in a year now, because fundamentally that's her last chance at a big contract. Because I don't know why you would even agree to doing those things if you're planning on stepping out anytime soon. Or
kind of a you can't fire me, I quit type of thing.
Yeah, that kind of attitude. And I think that, they went onto their stream to tell their side of the story, which they're obviously entitled to do, but with all the stuff that's circulating around it, because it originally started with the idea that they didn't want to lose the match, but then it turned out it was just a case of a timing for the match as well, which, you're more than within your right to be upset about the time that you're getting, but fundamentally you've been invited there to do a job. You've been paid and presumably like brought over with like travel expenses and all of that side of things to do your job, and then you say, oh, I don't want to, and then someone else comes in, so they bring in Maya World and Hyan to take the role instead, and then they conveniently enough get a 8 to 10 minute match on the next episode of Collision as well. So that's what you get for being like a reward for stepping up in that opportunity, and they will probably be looked at a lot more closely as people to join the roster in the near future. And it's not an uncommon thing for AEW to do that. Like a lot of people that have come into the company immediately start by doing some jobs before they start getting into like more established on the totem pole. And they're introducing a women's tag team division, women's tag team championship. So if you come in as a women's tag team, like, you might start by losing to the more established teams, but then you might start picking up some wins and you might start getting some opportunities. I think that, just seeing both this and then also just their first match they had with Bane and
Shafir.
Yeah, Shafir was was bad. I didn't think they were very good anyway. I don't think Nixon Newell has anywhere near the cachet that she seems to think that she has from being an ex-WWE person, considering the fact that she spent half her WWE career on a treatment table. I think that there's been, and there hasn't been much coming out beyond this thing, but I did see some people talking about how a promoter coming out saying that she's charging way too much for indie appearances and stuff along that sort of lines as well. But that's a typical ex-WWE wrestler attitude. That's not saying that she's just is specific to her. If this is indeed true, but it wouldn't be something that's specific to her. People just feel like they have an over-aggrandized worth just because they appeared in WWE for a while. And so if she's backing out, then it seems like it's apropos because it simply coincided with the business pushing her out at the same point as well. Because, if you're not going to go back to WWE and you're not going to be in AEW after this stunt, then really TNA is your only semi-big destination. And then, and also, doing a stunt like this will cause promoters to cast their eyes over your reliability as well. So...
Then you can't depend on TNA now that they have that WWE relationship, because if TNA's like, hey, what do you guys think about this person that you used to have? And they go, well, we got rid of her for a reason. You
Well, I
know?
think Wesley would have to disagree with that, but we'll get to when we talk about Turning Point and his re-emergence as part of the Rascal. But
to a certain extent, but like Wesley, as far as anybody's, I haven't seen anything about like Wesley like doing something like this. It's only the injury thing. Whereas like if now you do this, if you're Tegan, like you're not working with a whole lot of stock to begin with, because I mean, like you said, she spent the vast majority of her career injured. And when she wasn't, they didn't really push her. So you get a boost if you're a former WWE person to, you know, whatever extent that it is that you can milk that. I don't fault somebody for being like, I don't know, if like Cesar Bononi is on some indie and it's like former WWE superstar Cesar Bononi. It's like, yeah, okay, go ahead and do it. You are. But at the same time, you can't promote that in the same way that Stone Cold Steve Austin would. You know? And Tegan, like, she didn't win any championships. She didn't get any real prominent feuds other than the Dakota Kai one. And Dakota's not even in the company anymore. And she wasn't super high up for the majority of her career. So it's
the
like...
most famous thing she did in her WWE run was get her ass kicked in a WarGames cell.
It's that, and if you're really honest, what's the most important and interesting thing that's happened with Tegan Nox? It was the double injury.
Yeah.
And it's like Miranda, I think, was only in the one Mae Young Classic, if I remember correctly, and maybe did like some, you know, she might have lost a match on NXT every once in a while. So that's like, you can't hot shot yourself and act like you're coming in as, you know, oh my god, AEW just brought in fucking Roman Reigns. You know? So if you're asked to job, it sucks. It hurts your ego and everything. If you thought that you were going to be brought in as like one of those like, you know, if Bayley comes into AEW at some point, they're going to put her in a big prominent spot. They're not going to do that to her. But at the same time, if you know, they take Sloane Jacobs from NXT and say, maybe we'll give you a shot. Look what they did with Isla Dawn. Isla Dawn did way more than Tegan Nox did. And she was on, what, one show as a losing person in, like, Scotland?
Yeah.
She did it. She also did the Ring of Honor tapings in Jacksonville. She was paired with the Grizzled Young Vets.
Yeah, and there's probably a good chance that Tegan and Miranda would have been brought in to do some Ring of Honor stuff as well, if this hadn't have happened. So yeah, it's kind of closed the door off them. I mean, I don't want to pry too much about it, but do we know how long Miranda and Nixon have been together?
I think it's at least a year, maybe, but I can't say for certain.
Because it does feel like, especially like if Nixon is correct about, or like she's honest with the assessment that she's going to be in and out of the business in like a year's time, and like she's not hanging around for too much longer. Like, I don't know if Miranda feels the same way about that, and if she's like gone along with this, then she's closed the door to join like the second biggest company in the world potentially. Because I don't think that it's one of those things that it's completely insurmountable, because it's just someone making a stupid decision, and if they prove themselves enough on the independent scene and become somewhat like undeniable, then it's not like AEW going to say, oh, she's super popular on the independent circuit now and she's getting like big merch sales and stuff like that, but you know, she walked out of us that one time, so I guess we're just gonna let them go to WWE. It's like, but it does feel like going along with somebody else who doesn't really have, by what they're saying at least, doesn't have anything to lose, and just going along with that just because they're your partner doesn't feel like the smartest move in the world. Maybe you should be like cooler heads should prevail in that situation. Just decide and go, okay, we'll do this this match. We're not happy about the time being short or anything like that. We'll grit our teeth and get through it, and then like if you weren't happy about that or happy about the experience, we just say, okay, we're not going to do any more AEW stuff for now, but we'll leave on, you know, cordial terms and move on. It's not like it was going to like kill their momentum. What were they thinking? Like, oh, if we lose this match and we're only like beaten in like 3 minutes, like we're gonna run out of independent bookings. So people are just going to think we're losers now. It's like that's not how it works, because
That's why they-
promoters know that wrestling is scripted, and you were paid to do a job.
That's why that portion of the story didn't click with me, because I'm like, you can't tell me that they really thought they were going to come in and beat Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne or TJ. Like, they're
Or
in the
get
tournament.
some half-hour long Iron Woman match or something.
I can understand maybe saying, hey, can we get a little more time here? If they were being offered 3 minutes and they're just like, hey, what if we got some more time? And that's why I think that maybe it's just a case of, Nixon was like, man, that's kind of sad, because that's what I just got away from. And maybe it was something like that, but who really knows,
And it could be
I
a
think-
scenario where maybe they had a more cordial exit from that, but the fact that so many people were talking shit makes me think that that's not necessarily a case where, they met with Tony Khan and said, like, look, I don't know if I really want to do a squash. And then he goes, well, okay, we'll figure something else out. Thanks for coming in. It kind of feels more like it's like, I'm not doing that.
I think
we weren't there. So,
I think it's just like, it's sad, because at one point she was very talented, and I think you think that sometimes these people will click better in an environment than they do, and it's just unfortunate that it seems like her career is just gonna kind of end. And I was a fan of hers, so you know.
But I mean, Tony Khan even said on his most recent interview that like there's only really one person or whatever that's been burned from the company that he would never bring back, right?
He did say that. I know that Sean Ross Sapp had also tweeted out something similar, and it was said that the person it is people would never guess. So I'm not going to try to hazard one.
Oh, I'm fully going to ask, what do you guys think? Because to me,
he said there's someone that he said there's someone we wouldn't expect. So
right.
It's not Punk. It's not Cody.
I feel like there's like 3 different levels to this, where there's a certain level of, okay, but yeah, obviously we were talking about this person wouldn't be allowed to come back because of obvious reasons, and we didn't even factor them in. Kind of like a lot of people were like, well, what about Jimmy Havoc? And it's like, yeah, I don't think that Jimmy Havoc's going to come back. And I'm pretty sure that he would be on that like not happening list. And probably somebody like a Joey Janela could potentially be there. Maybe somebody like Joey Ryan, could be on the list or whatever. But a lot of people could jump straight to, this has to mean Rusev. Oh, this has to mean Aleister Black. And I don't think that that's the case. I feel like that's somebody who we probably will never know because it's probably not a wrestler. Like some dude backstage was caught stealing, or I don't know, they fired somebody on their web team for sexual harassment or some kind of like one of those sort of things where it's just like, okay, well, you're not even a name that anybody would know, and that's why nobody would guess it, because Flip Gunderson in marketing really burned that bridge.
Wow.
Flip.
Poor Flip Gunderson.
Nah, he's the bad guy here.
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume. I just meant you're throwing out Flip Gunderson's name as though he's done something wrong.
I wonder if there is a Flip Gunderson now, and I'm like,
yeah, I don't think there's any Flip Gundersons on planet Earth. If I had to guess, like a wrestler that you wouldn't expect, like what about like a Mel or like just like somebody that was in this company that you just don't think about anymore, like Mel. Or if I had to go with a name, maybe Pillman, but I can't see it.
it would be kind of funny if it's just sort of like, somebody asks Tony Khan and he's just like, I don't fucking like, what was, like Amber Nova or somebody.
Or like
some AEW dark person, Ryzen,
Oh man, Ryzen was on a lot of those early shows.
He had more matches than main roster people for a while there. He was on like every episode of Dark. There's a lot of people that were on Dark that were like, for a 2-year period, it was like, oh, I know this person. And then they just completely evaporated once they, became a bigger company. And got out of staying in one spot. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have much of a guess. I just figured I'd toss it out there. We'll find out at some point if people press him enough, but it kind of seemed like, based off of this media call, the information that I had seen, it didn't really seem like he was really saying much of anything. Like somebody had asked him a question about the new championships, and he said something along the lines of he created a new women's title, but not anything new for the men's, which is like
in Ring of Honor. In Ring of Honor.
Oh, he was specific about Ring of Honor?
In Ring of Honor, yes.
Okay. Because I didn't see that on any of the reports that I had seen. I had only seen like a generic little, like, here's the breakdown of like some quotes. And it was just like, I added a new title for that, but not for the men's. And I was like, dude, you got the national championship right here coming out.
Well, so the nature of the question was sort of, hey,
what's with all the belts?
It used to be so much simpler with the belts. What's the deal? And he mentioned, by the way, the national championship will be defended in other promotions. And he confirmed that it will be defended at Ring of Honor Final Battle. And he said that's the first time an AEW championship will be defended in Ring of Honor. So that's interesting. And then he had mentioned how he didn't add too many belts to the Ring of Honor side of things. And I think it's just, these belts are interchangeable. Like, he was trying to describe the national title, and I'm like, okay, so this is just the original plan for the international title, but with an America paint of coat. Oh my god, coat of paint. And like, that just is what it is.
You've listened to too many Bruce Pritchard podcasts.
Yeah, I legit did that. Wow. I think it'll be fun. It depends on who they give the belt to. It has to be somebody worth going to these other promotions, even a Ring of Honor, because, like, you're really going to be interested in seeing, just to throw a name out there, like Lashley against Blake Christian in Final Battle, if that's the plan.
Where he just, like, wrecks him.
Yeah, like, I'm not interested in that at all. So I like the idea of having a champion that can travel, because I think that is needed in wrestling, but it has to last more than the 3 months or whatever that Pac did it with the All-Atlantic later International Championship.
And were there any other, like, interesting things that happened on the media call? Most of the stuff that I had checked out was basically the same old kind of crap. Just, I'm excited about this. This is great. Everybody's great. Everything's great.
There was a lot of everybody's great. Someone asked about the women's blood and guts, and he said he was very proud of them, and that one day for sure they would be back in the cage, but didn't make it sound confident that it would be a yearly occurrence for the women in the cage.
Hopefully that's just because he has the mindset of, I'll book it if I feel like the match makes sense, and I don't want to force myself to have to do it like WWE does.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought, like, Tony Khan, both on like the like media call and the Helwani interview, was like, he comes across as far more media trained than he used to be. Like, he's good at handling this stuff nowadays. Whereas, like, I think occasionally, he kind of fit into this weird, like, he's now found this sweet middle spot where previously he was talking too much, and then he realised he was talking too much, and then he basically just shut up and just said the same things over and over and over again. And this time it came like a bit of a middle ground where he's diplomatic, but he gives a bit more away. Like, he talks about how there was never any discussion about taking Edge over to be part of the Cena retirement tour, and talking, and like, he's open about how, like, he's fully aware of WWE's usage of TNA and their counter programming measures and stuff like that, but basically talking about how he's not really like threatened by it, or like, he sees through it as transparently as it is, but like doesn't see it as a major issue holding AEW back. And then I love the way that he handles any time that Helwani tries to bring up things like CM Punk or Eric Bischoff. But the idea about, let's say, like how Eric Bischoff like criticizes him and how he comes from a position of having done this before, and then Tony Khan basically says like, oh yeah, I obviously have a lot of respect for Eric and stuff like that. So I think that surely he should understand the position that I'm in, being this was the position that he's in. So I don't know why he's not more not understanding, but like why he seems to be so vitriolic against someone who's basically in the same position that he once was. Like, so I think he handles stuff with a lot more I would say tact, but a lot more of a experience now. He's been in this position long enough now to know how to navigate these sort of interviews.
I think one of my favorite things from the Helwani interview, which I do legit feel was his best interview, because as Callum mentioned, he had gotten to a place where he was just like, no comment, no comment, no comment. And here he gave a little bit there. Like Helwani had asked him about, CM Punk and Jade Cargill and taking the photo, and he was just like, no, it made me smile and I liked it, and it reminded me of this time that we did this in AEW. And he also spoke about Jericho a few times this week, saying he can't speak to whether Jericho will be back, but he later told Adam Zapple he would love for Jericho to have his retirement match in AEW. So I'm guessing it's still cordial there, but all roads continue to point to Jericho's not coming back, at least in this go-around.
Kind of feels like it, yeah. Just like nobody can confirm anything because they either legally can't or why would they want to? And then we'll start seeing a countdown or something. Let's go back to another thing too that we didn't get a chance to talk about, partially because we didn't know what was happening for TNA Turning Point. And the time that we did the hot tags last week was not on Friday, so we didn't get a chance to see what happened for Impact. So TNA is in a weird spot. They took a bunch of weeks off and for some reason decided on the night that they would return, which was to the night before a pay-per-view, that they would take the title off of Santana. And Mike Santana lost by the Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy gimmick with the whole Frankie Kazarian cashing in thing. There was the TNA invasion for NXT with a bunch of people that clearly have nothing else going on right now, like Charlie Dempsey. Like, for some reason, I'm just mixing up with No Quarter Catch Crew people. Lexis King, Stax was there. High Rise was there. I think that might have been it. And, Ariana Grande. Look, I'm just watching everybody. Ariana Grace was a part of the mix, of course, too, but she's been a part of that for a while. Turning Point came and went. There were some interesting things that happened there, some things that are not all that surprising. And then we're going to get into some other like spoiler things for NXT but we're going to hold off on that at least a little bit for right now. So check out the Turning Point results. We don't need to break everything down, especially because it's like, who cares about some of this stuff? But out of all the things that had happened, the Santana stuff strikes to me more than almost anything. Curtis said he's going to retire like very soon. I was a little bit surprised about that, but
yeah, Johnny Curtis Fandango is going to retire in January following the TNA Genesis event. So that's interesting. I mean, he's had a long career, like I think what do you say, 25 years. So he can definitely check a lot of things off the list. He's a WrestleMania winner. He beat Jericho. He had some good success in TNA, did the Breezango stuff. Shout out to him. I think from the NXT stuff for me, it really stood out that not only are they, for some reason, rehashing this now in a weaker way, but there was also a moment where Ava came out and was like, hey, I can't be here every week on TNA, but I found a liaison introducing Ariana Grace. It's like Ariana was doing this for several months. Why are you acting like this is a new thing?
Yeah. It's almost like a new writing team came on board, didn't do the research that they had done before, and then said, well, why don't we do that and just introduce it?
Oh, I made the joke when the Santana thing happened that it felt like a very Vince Russo thing, which is just like, you know what they'll never see coming? Let's just have him lose the belt. And by the way, I like that Frankie Kazarian has won the TNA title. That's something that when you look at the legacy of that title, you know.
Had he not won it before?
No.
Really? I just assumed that he did.
See, that's the reason why I'm glad he's won it. But it didn't need to come now. It didn't need to come like this. It didn't need to happen at the expense of Santana, who literally just got the belt after they failed to put it on him in New York. They have this weird thing, because they did this last year with Hendry, where it was like, okay, Hendry beats Nemeth at Bound for Glory, and they were like, no, we're going to stretch it out to Genesis. And now Santana's doing this thing where he's like, well, I'm going to beat all the TNA people, or the NXT people first, and then I'm going to get my belt back. And it's like, why? What is the reason that you're dragging this out even more?
Part of me feels like, I know I always use this as my my measuring stick. So apologies if everybody's like, my God, he's fucking talking about this again. Part of me feels like it's the Star Wars sequel thing of, we don't have anything, so can we just hit the rewind button and do the thing that we did before and try to milk that? It's not going to be as good, but we can just try. Because maybe they have quite literally no ideas, and they're like, well, shit, if Santana's champion, we can't have Santana chase the championship, so let's just take it off of him and he can chase it again.
That's so stupid to me. Wouldn't
shock me, because so many people are just, they got no ideas. You know? And I think this is such a TNA thing too. Like, you build momentum towards this big show that, like, you know, Jericho's putting over in whatever capacity you want to, you know, give that credit to, of like, this is you know, this feels like a WrestleMania thing, whatever. I don't think it did, but you know, then TNA finally puts the belt on Santana, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll see you in 4 weeks, and then we'll just undo it all anyway. Like, all right, well, that's why you're not the number 2 company or the number 1 company. It's because you do shit like this.
That's why the phrase for years has been LOL TNA.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Never fails. I was even explaining it to Caroline because, like, obviously, like, you know, for the most part, she doesn't care, and I don't blame her. And but every once in a while, she'll ask me a question. She'll be like, you know, like, oh, is this one like an NXT one or whatever like that? And I've explained to her like how TNA is just kind of, they fall ass backwards into shit all the time. And I was like, you know, what do you think that you would do if you just, like, you had this opportunity to put this over guy from New York? You could do the title change there, and then you don't, and you drag it out, and then you do this or whatever. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, okay, so you don't even have to be in the like in the bubble to be like, the fuck kind of decision is this? I don't think it's gonna work out in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, it's what it is. Wesley's back in the company. Shocker. But hey, that's good.
Yeah, I think it's positive in that, okay, cool, you get the Rascals back together. If it feels like a feel-good moment, but it's also annoying in that, hey, your 2 henchmen from NXT are on the show. Like, we're just not going to acknowledge that because, oh, that was the NXT me, this is the TNA me. I don't know. It seems weird.
I'd assume at some point we're going to get High Rise versus Rascals, and then they're going to cut a promo and be like, you know, you got fired from the company and you're not our boss anymore. And he'll be like, yeah, fuck you guys. Yeah, that's basically it. But, yeah, on the TNA side of things, there is another major thing that had happened, but I don't want to say it without the spoiler warning. So, you know, put a pin in that. we'll come back to it a little bit later. But as far as two TNA people that have been in WWE recently, Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, pops up on Friday night's SmackDown, faces LA Knight in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Nemeth pops up on Monday Night Raw, and Dolph Ziggler loses to Solo Sikoa. So those were the two mystery opponents, and no Joe Hendry, no Chris Jericho from other people thinking that, no Edge for all the people that for some reason thought that was going to happen. I am on like the positive side of things for this. I think, hey, if Cardona and Nemeth are friends of Cena and he said, why don't we put them in there? Then cool, he gets what he wants. And I've always been a fan of those two. They lost their matches, so I don't think that there's much of an argument of like these guys that are outside the company are coming in and these older guys aren't putting over these younger talent or anything. I think they came in, they had their fun little spots, and then they move on. I liked it. Big pops for them too.
I was initially really bothered by the Cardona thing. Because I had written no less than 5 articles about this man saying Zack Ryder is dead. I will puke if I have to hear that music. When I come out, I just won't go back to WWE. I'm doing fine on the indies. And then he comes out, and then he wrestles Matt Cardona in NXT, and then comes out as Zack Ryder on SmackDown to lose to LA Knight, by the way. Ziggler, same thing, but he had never denounced the Ziggler name or anything, and he was full blown in his entrance, like TNA baby, yeah, let's go. And so like he was plugging everything he was doing right down to wearing his like wanted man gear and all that. And one thing I'll tell you is people loved Dolph Ziggler in New York City, and people loved seeing Zack Ryder. They were all into it.
Wouldn't it have made a little bit more sense though if Ryder was the one that was in New York and losing to Solo, and Ziggler was the heel going up against LA Knight?
I will make the argument that maybe they were like, well, Ziggler will sell more for Solo.
True.
Because people were loving the way he sold the Samoan Spike, and I was a little bit surprised. Because, like, yeah, like, Ziggler, he was never bad at that part of the job. He was so good that he continues to just look up at the lights. But it was cool to see them. They're not signed. I think WWE brought them in as Zack Ryder and Nick Nemeth, particularly with Ryder, since Cardona was so adamant about it, because they wanted to sell the merch, because they immediately put out merch for them. And I thought it was successful, even if I felt like, man, it sucks that, after all the successful work he's done, he just comes back as Ryder and just is doing the Zack Ryder thing of losing.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, work is going to work. He's always going to say the stuff about, because at the time when you're pushing yourself as king of the indies and that's your kind of gimmick, then yeah, of course you're going to say, oh, I'm never going to go back to WWE and Zack Ryder's dead and all that other stuff. But then when they actually come with the money, then you like, oh yeah, Zack Ryder, sure, get the music on. Do you want me to get my hair up in a certain way, stuff like that? Just however they, whatever you want, boss.
He's always ready to be Zack Ryder.
Yeah, exactly. So does that stuff, and it's kind of like, in a way, a cool moment, I guess, for fans of a certain era, especially for two people that have been tied to Cena's career to a certain extent. I don't think people would ever look at Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler as pivotal rivals or even allies in Cena's career, but they have been involved with him through bits and pieces. So, and I think I would have more fondness for it. Well, one, if I actually cared about anything WWE does, but secondly, because if it wasn't just two more old people in a tournament full of old people. So it's like, okay, if you bring back a couple of, I guess what qualifies for legends in 2025, I don't know if you even class that, but two veteran heads into this, but people that have already qualified or advanced in this tournament are guys like Sheamus, who were their peers. Like, it's not like, oh, bring back some other guys from 5-10 years ago when they were at their peak, and then we're going to tie with like the up and coming fresh face guys that are coming up right now. It's like, no, you brought a guy who's pretty much like, if it wasn't for like, I don't know, a couple of different scenarios or situations or like certain angles going worse than they actually did, you know, a guy like Sheamus could be in the same position that Dolph Ziggler is right now. Who knows? So, like, you basically, okay, we just brought back a load of guys from the 2010s to have a go to wrestle in the same tournament as a bunch of guys that we still currently have that were there most over during the 2010s. So,
yeah, I feel like, first of all, I didn't acknowledge this, but the fact that Tony Khan had to address was Edge ever considered for the tournament is stupid. I feel like the biggest disappointment in this tournament is how, you know, John Cena had already wrestled and defeated most of these people, and it's not like, oh man, people are really clamoring for that LA Knight John Cena match. I feel like I pick on LA Knight a lot, but it's frustrating.
Realistically, out of this whole group of the people that are in this thing, it doesn't, like, even the people that are left, it's like, all right, so Penta's going to go up against Finn Balor on tonight's episode of SmackDown. Neither of them was winning. It's not going to be Penta versus John Cena, and Finn Balor just had that whole match with him on Raw, so it's like, yeah, it's not going to be him either. So just you wait until Gunther. It's not going to be LA Knight. It's not going to be Jey Uso, like, et cetera, et cetera.
You know, and we talked about this last week, and Callum had the remark of like, we don't need to go through this because it's just going to be Gunther. But that's kind of like the problem is, like, you could have casted doubt somehow, you know, but then the lineup you gave just sort of reinforced, oh, it's okay, it's just going to be Gunther. Cool.
add a bit of breaking news into this, somewhat breaking news, should I say.
Okay.
WWE announced that Sheamus is suffering from a shoulder injury, and so he's out of the tournament now.
Are you fucking for real?
Well, it's not going to be Sheamus. Well, that sucks.
First of all, sucks for Sheamus. He's a guy who it took me a while to get around to Sheamus, but now I really love Sheamus, and I just wanted to win that IC title once. And we've proven with this John Cena run that you can do it at any time you want. That's disappointing, and hopefully it's not too serious, because, like, that's another guy who gets injured at this stage in his career. Has got to be thinking long term, you know, and that really sucks.
Does it say if he got injured in the match on Raw? I'm assuming so.
Either that or it's a workout thing.
Yeah, it could be one of the workout videos he does.
They don't say specifically. It just says that they suffered from a shoulder injury and just won't be competing in the next round. So I don't know whether it's.
That's where Edge comes into play.
So I don't know if they just replace him with it was like Nakamura was the guy that he beat. So whether he just gets substituted back in, or whether they just decide to give whoever he was going to be fighting a bye to the next round.
He was up against Rusev, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, presumably what it was going to be is, if it was going to follow the matches on Raw, the semi-final from one side, for the Raw side of things, was probably going to be Sheamus versus Gunther, because they always like to pull that match back every now and again. So they'll probably just end up being Gunther versus Rusev instead.
Which could work. Like, yeah, that could be fun. It'd be different in the sense of they don't have to do the exact same match that they've done before, and they could do something slightly different.
Also, that's so boring as well, or just like in general, because even with all these like older guys that have been in the ring with each other for a lot of stuff like that, you said say that one of the next round matches was going to be Sheamus versus Rusev, which is the feud that Rusev came back to the company with, was against Sheamus, and said, "Oh yeah, we'll just do that again, because why not?" Like, that's can't even give up. Rusev's only been back for I don't know, a couple of months now, so it's a case of could you really not find him any other opponent to have except the one guy that he's really had any sort of feud with outside of like Penta and Dominic Mysterio since coming back? Surely you could have thought one other guy for him to have the match with instead.
And that's the frustrating thing for me too. It's like on Raw they did Gunther versus Javon, and I'm like, at the very least, this could have been your final match, and then you're like, oh man, Gunther really crushed the dreams of Javon Evans, who had beaten a Sheamus, had beaten Finn Balor, right? Like, so you're kind of making a star a little in Javon. But no, because we don't make stars. We just recycle.
Well, that tournament is going on, and we'll give more updates as time goes on. We're just assuming Gunther is going to win, and we'll come back around to that when the time's being. Let's go and talk about, I guess, some other stuff that happened on the Monday Night Raw episode. Big thing happened with Maxxine Dupri. Should have said, winning the Women's Intercontinental Championship. AJ Lee returns. She causes a distraction. That leads to Becky Lynch dropping the title, which we just talked about the whole thing of like, why didn't you put the belt on Santana in New York? Why didn't you put the belt on Maxxine in Sacramento? So that you can do a count out and a DQ and then wait like 4 weeks so that AJ could come out. Like, couldn't have just, I don't know, came out then. Or couldn't have done something else along those lines. So I'm not a big fan of that. Congrats to Maxxine Dupri, but to be perfectly honest, I don't feel like the momentum is there in a way that makes perfect sense for her to win the women's mid-card championship over other people. Because I look at somebody like a Michin and it's like, damn, they do not want to give that girl any kind of real positives. This is Maxine's second win ever.
You mean, I was going to ask if you meant in general.
It's a second singles win, I think, that she's ever had.
That's crazy.
If I let me double check, but I had came across a statistic about that. Maybe she won like some 6-woman tags or something like that, but I'm pretty sure that this is her second win.
I think she's been winning on main event, hasn't she?
I don't know, maybe that could be the case, but yeah, main event doesn't matter. Which, by the way, I always sing this tune. I'm glad you brought that up and reminded me. I had mentioned before, I had confirmation from somebody that worked in the main event, production side of things, saying that even they don't watch the show and all that. So we talked about that before, but hey, WWE finally put the fucking Evolve champion on the fucking Superstars page.
Yes, and you went first and you messaged me about this, and I was just laughing because, of course, you would know.
Yeah, because for months I'm sitting there going, why is Jackson Drake not on the Superstars page? The guy's the goddamn champion of the brand, and you have Callie Armstrong, and you have that championship, and you just don't have him. Why not? And I guarantee you, it's just up there now because they are like writing up some kind of an article for NXT Gold Rush. They realized that they needed to tag him. Then they realized there wasn't a tag, looked in and went, oh shit, we never did that. And then finally put it up. It's like, my God, you don't pay any attention to your website at all, do you? Hence, go to smarkoutmoment.com. I've had that information up for, since it happened. But she's had nine wins in 2025, according to this. But that's, not wins that necessarily translate to maybe you should put the belt on her.
Yeah. So, and through the course of her career on like the people that she's beaten are Valhalla. She's beaten Zoe Stark. She's beat Ivy Nile and Becky Lynch.
And those Becky Lynch ones were the count out, DQ, and then this one.
Yeah. So
worthy of an Intercontinental title? I don't know.
I mean, they're trying to do like an underdog story thing. I mean, let's put it this way: it's not like it's unheard of. Santino Marella won the Intercontinental title in his first ever match.
That was exactly the example I was going to use.
Yeah, so it's not unheard of to give a quote unquote jobber a mid card championship, and frankly, it's like not what this title should be. This title should be, a mid card title for a lot of other people that aren't at the level of the main event to fight for. The issue being that both women's rosters in WWE are so thin in terms of both Raw and SmackDowns that it just feels like you're just rotating in and out of vain for, because Michin just spent all this time fighting for the United States Championship, and now she's going to fight Jade Cargill for the world title because wow, we have nobody else that's there available to fight for it until either Tiffany Stratton comes back or we decide to move on to the Charlotte Flair feud or whatever, or Bianca Belair comes back. So it just feels like Maxxine will just hold the title for a little while and they'll do this underdog story until she either loses it back to Lynch or they push some other like big bad to take the title off of her, like a Nia Jax or a Lash Legend if they're on Raw instead of SmackDown. Depends on what the future holds, but yeah, that's like they managed to get her somewhat organically over with these victories over Becky Lynch and get her seen as this like underdog fighting from underneath, and has pushed Lynch to her limits to the point where Lynch has had to has lost to her just in ways that wouldn't cost her the championship. And so yeah, I think it's, in a way, it's the blueprint is right. I just don't know if the person they've chosen to do this will work out, but we'll see. She's blonde and good looking, so she has a ability to do something in WWE. Because those are kind of the prerequisites they have for most women that have succeeded in WWE. So,
I mean, there's nothing that separates her from the Divas era, as far as like if somebody were to take her from exactly what she is right now, plop her in the era of fighting Alicia Fox and Maurice, she'd be, okay, well, she's champion at some point because it is what it is. But I don't know. I was sold on the idea that AJ Lee would win the title from Becky Lynch, and then, by proxy of that, she could get a chance to feud with Roxanne Perez, maybe at WrestleMania. Now I'm thinking either I was, dead wrong, which is certainly a possibility, or that maybe it's the flip side of it. Maybe Maxxine is the one that's going to lose it relatively soon. Relatively soon meaning she could lose it, in a month, not necessarily next week. Maybe she loses it to Roxanne. And then Roxanne can feud with AJ and or Liv Morgan, because we don't know when Liv Morgan's going to return. So maybe the game plan is, if you don't want to do the AJ Lee and Roxanne Perez match at WrestleMania, maybe it's Roxanne against Liv Morgan, and this title's on the line on night 1 or night 2. I don't know. Not exactly the call I would have made to put the belt on Dupri, but every so often something like this happens and it ends up working out in the grand scheme of things. So congrats to her.
I mean, I cannot complain whatsoever. I've been pushing that we need to have short title reigns and title switches on TV. And I mean, between NXT and Raw, we're definitely getting that. And I'm excited to see where it goes. If nothing else, she can always say she was women's IC champion, and that's all that matters.
So in the mix of all that stuff, we did get updates when it comes to the WarGames teams. AJ Lee gets in a backstage segment where Ripley talks to her and says, I talked to you. So it's the implication is she's going to join the WarGames team. You would assume that means that Becky Lynch is probably going to join the heel team to offset that. They had reached out to Bayley to try to get on the team and, reform Damage Control a little bit. And, I thought that was like a nice little bit of continuity for them to try that out and everything. We also got the big finish of the episode with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. They seemed like they were the obvious picks to be the last two on the men's team, so we got confirmation on that. I got to admit, I ended up enjoying that segment a whole hell of a lot, despite the fact that there are issues that I have with both Brock and Roman for, political reasons. But yeah, the electricity in the air kind of a thing. I can't deny it. The crowd was going nuts. It felt like a big deal. So if you take morality and ethics out of things, then hell, great moment.
There's no time for morality and ethics. This is war, man.
All's fair in love at WarGames.
So this was the first episode of. This is the first full WWE show I've watched since SummerSlam. And I was surprised by my ability to get through it, but I also realized that I just ended up having a good time with the show. And the ending in particular, I think if you're going to overload a WarGames match like this, and your whole build is going to be, hey, it's Roman and Brock and Punk and Cody and shut up. That's the way you're going to have to sell it, where, okay, you got to see Brock interact with Punk. You got to see Roman come back and interact with Brock. Like, they did it well enough to where you go, okay, at least the one selling point of the match should be able to deliver. And overall, I left Raw thinking, really fun show. I'm glad the Garden feels special again. And more than anything, boy, they really need to make stars so that we can have this feeling on a consistent basis. Because that's part of the issue here is we don't have big enough stars to where every week you don't feel like, oh my God, it was so cool because this one interacted with this one and that one. You have to keep relying on your old stars for that. And we talk about why that's a problem enough on this podcast. But if they can manage to flip it, oh man, they could potentially capture some momentum again.
Yeah, for what I've seen for it seemed like a like very exciting segment to the extent that I in particular can be excited by something that WWE does. But it falls into the same traps as it always is. Yeah, you put only people that are over in the ring together, and the crowd really liked it. Was fucking surprised. like of course. Oh wow, these are the only people that anybody cares about, and you decide to make a segment dedicated to them. So of course they cared about it. Like them talking about how, oh my God, Brock and Roman, we've been waiting for this story to resume. Dude, they've told this story like 20 times over the past like 10 plus years. It's like,
to be clear, Callum is referring to the caption on the Twitter video was, "Oh, we've been waiting for these men to lock up again," which yes, they do quite frequently.
Dude, we're waiting for you to like find someone else at this point. Like, surely, why are we? Because at this point, if you're just going to have these guys just consistently fight each other for the rest of time, and I'm not just talking about Roman and Brock, but like involving Cody, Seth when he's back, CM Punk, all these other people, you're just going to have the same old guys fighting the same old guys over and over and over again, and then potentially, like allow a Bron Breakker to slip into that and just be the one guy that gets any momentum out of it, then like you're just going to be left with one guy who's like over at that point. I just feel that it's the encapsulation of what WWE is right now. It's very much an old man's club. This is WCW.
Yeah,
this is WCW in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah,
it's just that they're too big to fail.
And I felt that way for a while with WWE, where they continue to make the same mistakes that they constantly made fun of WCW for. But yeah, it's hard to deny, they're just relying on the same old stars. And be that as it may, like I said, totally hypocritically, I did enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. And I did enjoy seeing, like, earlier in the night, because this is like the one part of Raw we hadn't talked about, Cena and Ray and Sheamus in this like 2010 super team fought Judgment Day, and I thought, wow, that was really fun. And like that's what Cena's final tour should have been. And he's gonna fight Dom at Survivor Series. Dom gets to say he had 3 of Cena's 4 last matches.
Isn't that wild?
which is wild. But like he's the one. He got a short mini feud with Cena.
Like he gets 3 matches in the final 4, and Braun Breaker doesn't get one.
I mean, but Dom also was lucky enough to say he got a few of Edge's last ones when he was in WWE. So Dom, even though he has worked himself to that level, he is just sort of reaping the rewards of being like, yeah, I'm Dom Mysterio and I'm getting all these benefits.
Which is like, yeah, that's awesome for him. Dom's great.
I do love Dom.
So the Raw stuff's Raw stuff. The whole setup that we've got going on with the WarGames things, we'll get into that in due time with next week's episode and everything. The NXT stuff there's a lot to unpack there, so I'm actually going to hold off on that a little bit and just toss this one out that's pretty quick. 3 people on the LFG roster are now part of the Evolve roster. Zena Sterling had a match on Evolve. She lost to... Oh God, I'm blanking on who she lost to. It doesn't matter. Trill London tagged with Tate Wilder and they wrestled as well. Drake Morreaux had a vignette. And that leaves just a few people from LFG that are not accounted for right now. Tatiana Dumas doesn't have a roster. Bailey Humphrey doesn't. Chris Island, a handful of other people. Serena Lenton's one of them. This makes sense. This is, what Evolve is supposed to be for. It's the pre-NXT roster, and I haven't heard anything about LFG getting a 3rd season. So if they aren't,
LFG signed on for 6 seasons, bro.
6 seasons?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, they have never said anything. Season 1 and season 2 were like, after season 1 was just ending, it's like, hey, by the way, season 2 is happening in like 3 weeks or something. And then season 2 ended and it just ended. There wasn't anything about, wait for season 3, it's coming up in a couple months or,
Right.
But then again, if you're somebody like a Bailey Humphrey and if you're on 3 seasons of NLFG and eventually you gotta just move on at some point. But Trill is fun. He's, he very much patterns himself off of the Hardy Boys. Drake Morreaux has been getting better. Zena Sterling's been one of the standouts. So I'm glad that they're involved in Evolve. And Pineda Toilepa, PJ Vasa, she's doing her thing over there. So anyway, I know this wasn't a big topic, so I just wanted to get it out of the way. Let's go back and talk about the NXT stuff. And actually no. Let's hold off on NXT. Let's talk about Dynamite and Collision. That way, we'll talk about our updates to Full Gear. Then we'll run down the NXT stuff and we can get into spoilers, just in case people don't want to know the spoilers and they want to skip that part of the video. So I'm not planning on putting anything up that says like, this is when the spoilers are or something. I'm not going to do that effort. The Dynamite episode and the Collision episode that followed for this week had a handful of different things that changed the lineup for Full Gear. One of them being Bobby Lashley earned the number 1 spot in the Casino Gauntlet match, and Shelton Benjamin earned the number 2 spot with botchy ending for the Speedball Mike Bailey scenario. And it's not botchy in the sense that anybody particularly screwed up. It's just one of those things where, man, this would have been a great moment, but you call an audible and it doesn't work. If you didn't see the match, Shelton Benjamin hits a super kick and Bailey does like a flip, and the sound of it and everything was impressive enough that the crowd was just like, oh shit, whatever. And seemingly Benjamin tried to make the audible of, well, we're not going to get better than that. Like, let's just go with the finish. And Bailey was seemingly down for it, so he didn't actually put his arms up to, kick out of the pin. But the referee, forget if it was it Remsburg or, no, it was Paul Turner, I'm pretty sure. He knew that was not the finish of the match. So he just did the 1, 2, and you're like, ah, shit. I hate when that happens. Wish he would have just done the pinfall right then. But hey, if they edit that out or they figure out some way around it, it's cool super kick. So we're getting Lashley against Benjamin starting that off. It's pretty fun.
But So at first I thought it was botchy, but didn't Bayley also get help to the back? Like, wasn't he also like knocked out?
I think that's that was just him
Do
selling.
you think he just tried to carry off like something was wrong?
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think that there's anything super serious about it. There's not been any sort of like report or information about him potentially being out of the match at Full Gear. So I'd be surprised if anything was serious about it. But
Fair enough.
it's one of those things that it's just referees need to start calling things as shoots, and it's the wrestler's job to kick out. It's not their job to cover for the wrestlers. Like it should always be a case of like if a pinfall happens or something happens that wasn't supposed to happen, it should be the wrestler's fault, never the referee's fault. Like we have to start like creating a culture where the referee's completely blameless in this scenario, and they're gonna like treat matches as if they're like shoots happening. It's like a case of if you try and interfere in a match and you do it at the wrong time, the referee's looking right at you when you're doing it when you're supposed to have his back turned. It's like that's your fault. You're doing a bad job. So, but I'd say it was a good match, good finish. It was quite interesting how they went with the Lashley squash of Ricochet.
I didn't like that at all.
I don't mind it because I still think Ricochet's going to win the match. In fact, it strengthened my my belief that Ricochet's going to win the championship based on the result of that match. Because I just feel like they gave him the mic to start with. He was able to cut a promo beforehand, and then got overzealous and beaten by Lashley quickly. I just feel like, okay, that feels maybe that's the way just my wrestling brain is coded, but it just gives the sense of okay, they had him lose so convincingly here. He's definitely winning the title at the weekend. So. But it's good. It'd be cool to see both Hurt Business members start off the match and how they go about it. Because realistically, you could do a scenario where like they talk to each other in the back and say, "Okay, I'm just going to let Lashley win the title here," and Shelton Benjamin just falls down for the first 30 seconds and Lashley just wins it. But I doubt they'll go down that route.
Another finger poke of doom scenario. I mean, I would laugh. I would think it would be funny, but obviously that's just like the little troll part of me that would find that funny. It's not the actual thing that they should go with.
It's the one thing. Yeah, it's the one thing. It's like they have to eventually. I'm not saying it has to be right now. Definitely not on this one, especially if you're crowning a champion. But they need to at some point do a Casino Gauntlet match where the match is won before anyone else gets into the ring.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you waste that on something where like it's not the biggest deal in the world. Like it's
it's a number one contender for like a TNT championship match or something.
Yeah, like it's not like crowning the inaugural champion for something where people would be like, "What the fuck? This is already staining the title." Because like that you can't afford it on that front. But like if you want to do a surprise thing like that, I've always said like if you do a surprise thing every once in a while, as long as you don't do it in some kind of a scenario where it's like ridiculous. I wouldn't be opposed to a match ending during a commercial break or something, if it's going to be more interesting. Or, you start off, hey, we talked about it before. You start off the Royal Rumble and somebody starts eliminating everybody one by one. They did it for half the Royal Rumble and it was interesting as all hell. Don't do it again, maybe, unless you want to do somebody who eliminates all 30, but, or all 29. But, you play around every once in a while. And, I like the idea that Lashley and Benjamin are going to be going up against each other. So that way they shake hands, they start wrestling, you get to see that, and then the third person comes in and they beat the crap out of that person. And that makes me even more so though agree with you that I think that Ricochet's winning this.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Unless they're just want to do something that they haven't done yet, or go with somebody that they haven't announced yet. But I would go with Ricochet. I'm not interested in seeing Lashley pick it up, even though Tony Khan always does make a big deal about Lashley hasn't been beaten. He hasn't been beaten. He's this undefeated guy. But I have no interest in seeing him. Like I said, I don't believe Bobby Lashley is going to go to defy and wrestle whoever their champion is. Maybe Ricochet will.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know about like the plans when it comes to the national title and all that, but yeah, that's a fun little thing that I was not anticipating, because I was just like, okay, well, they're going to, at the time that we were talking about it before, they didn't announce who was in the number 1 spot match and the number 2 spot match and all the other kind of things like that. So I was like, they'll figure it out. But that's one of those updates to that. They also had plenty of matches that are just, typical go home show. You got like Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong against Death Riders. And then that leads to Kyle O'Reilly coming out, putting Jon Moxley in the ankle lock again and no selling a bunch of kicks, and challenging Moxley to a no holds barred match at Full Gear. So if they want to push Kyle O'Reilly like really consistently, then he wins this. If it's a matter of it's time for the Death Riders to get some wins back, then he loses. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that O'Reilly will win just to continue it. But the no holds barred thing does raise a little bit of a wrinkle. But I think that's basically because of the outcome of the tag match, which was they did it quite cleverly, where you had Claudio uppercut Cassidy and pretty much knock him out, and then Moxley puts him in the bulldog choke, even though Cassidy's pretty much out in his feet in the first place, and just makes Moxley feel like, oh shit, I got to win. Like, it's crazy. I managed to get someone to tap out. I'm still the man. I'm still the greatest. And I think that was interesting. But then he immediately gets into the ankle lock and he's immediately tapping out, even though obviously there's no match and no referee to call it. But so they've really pointed out the idea that O'Reilly is like a real thorn in his side, and he just can't withstand any sort of submission or any sort of situation where he has to fight his way out right now. But because they're doing it no holds barred, they could just have a situation where someone comes in and wins the match on Moxley's behalf, pretty much, by knocking out Kyle O'Reilly, and Moxley just picks up the scraps. So they could tell that story again, or they could use that, what happened in this match, as a false flag of, okay, Claudio comes out and knocks out Kyle O'Reilly with an uppercut, and Moxley either goes to the pin or puts him in the bulldog choke, and it looks like he's going to do the same thing again, but O'Reilly kicks out and puts him back into the submission hold and gets the victory. But yeah, I was pretty confident they were going to do this match anyway, but yeah, the result of the match on Dynamite has put a little bit of doubt in my mind as to who's going to win, but I think it still should be O'Reilly.
We got the...
Yeah.
Oh, good.
No, I want to see O'Reilly win. I would hate to see that all of this is just leading to, okay, Moxley had a fun mini feud with O'Reilly, and then he wins it, because Moxley's as on top of this company as you can be, and he has a chance to really give back, and you could say O'Reilly's not the youngest star, and I'd have to agree, but at the same time, it shakes things up toward the top of the card, and Moxley's in a position where he can do that, and there's not a lot of people in this company who can give back in that way right now.
Right now in my head, I've just got O'Reilly. Just because that's how my brain works. Young Bucks and stuff, that's basically the same. Just, we're going to wait on that until what happens at Full Gear. Nothing new on that front for the grand scheme of things. But we did get the quarterfinals matches that happened in the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championship Tournament. Toni Storm and Marina Shirakawa beat Alex Windsor and Riho, and then Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir beat Tay J, I should say. I always want to say Tay J because it makes more sense, but yeah, it's Ty Mello, not Tay. And that also led to an announcement that there is a 4-way that is happening on the show where all 4 of those teams are going to be up against each other, and the winning tag team gets to pick their stipulation for their semifinals match for the tournament. So if Babes of Wrath win, they only pick the Babes of Wrath versus Sisters of Sin match for... Wait, it's those 2, right? Or is that the other way around?
Yeah, it's Babes of Wrath versus Sisters of Sin. It's one of the semifinals, yeah.
So it has no bearing on the other match. It's just one of those semifinals matches. I think it's a little bit weird, but at the same time, I guess Tony Khan just figured, I want to get these people on the card. I don't want to do the tournament in a way to actually do the semifinals matches on that, and let me try to make it for something. It's awkward, and it could have been done a lot better, I think, but it also could have been a lot worse. I have no idea who wins this because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd say it was an overcomplication. I didn't necessarily need to happen. But I guess as the way I was saying that they didn't have any women on the card, and now they have 8 more women on the card off the back of this match. So that I think that's the only real purpose for it. And the only thing that I feel certain about, I don't know who's going to win, but whoever wins this match loses their semi-final match.
Oh, absolutely. I know exactly. That's the exact same thing.
That's the only thing I'm certain about. Yeah, but I don't know who that would be. I presume it's either Sisters of Sin or Shafir and Fort. Maybe even Titus Love. I will say I now completely have no idea who's winning out of the Timeless Love bombs and Shafir and Bane, because that's now just so close to call. I still think Nightingale and Cameron win overall, but I don't know who's winning the other semi-final.
I think that we're going to end up getting a Timeless Love Bombs win, and it'll be some kind of hardcore death match with Marina and Megan. And I think Marina and Megan are winning this tournament.
I am still leaning towards that it's probably Storm and Shirakawa winning, but at the very least, I'm willing to say I'm pretty sure that's not Sisters of Sin. So maybe the Sisters of Sin win this, they pick the stipulation, and then they lose, and that's the end of that. Or maybe they get to the finals and they lose or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's something. It's an addition to the card. And yeah, you have 12 matches on these events, so it kind of is what it is. The other match that has been added onto the card from this episode, Kazuchika Okada and Oscar Dorada were up against each other. They had a stipulation of double jeopardy in this, where it's number one contenders match for both titles essentially, and Okada wins, meaning that Dorada does not get a unified championship match, but Okada, on behalf of the Don Callis family, wins a shot at the CMLL World Trios Championship. And Don Callis comes out, he's already out there, but he grabs a microphone after the match and says, all right, well, it's going to be official for Full Gear. He's going to team with Yosoi Hechicero and Konosuke Takeshita, which, of course, is not something that Okada was happy about. So, to me, this is pretty boilerplate type stuff. They'll have a fun match. Okada and Takeshita will argue with each other. Hechicero will eat the pinfall, and the El Sky team end up retaining.
I saw a Lucha blog on Twitter try to explain why this match was so important to Hechicero and how these titles do mean a lot to him. If only he can make sure that his partners get along. Okada is shockingly really good at sports entertainment with his facials and his expressions. And I'm a little surprised that we're getting Okada Takeshita on the Tailgate Brawl, which will be free on TNT and not on the actual pay-per-view, but I'm going to guess that they don't win just because it doesn't make any sense. And, Hechicero can always take the pin.
Yeah, I don't think the titles will change hands. I think it's cool that on the Tailgate Brawl they'll almost certainly be the main event or the final match to get people interested, those last minute buyers in to see this match, and hopefully get people invested in the main show. It might even be one of those situations I did last time. I don't think they'll do the same thing, but it could be a situation where it carries over into the main show, depending on what happens. It's just interesting that all the matches on the Tailgate Brawl are tag team matches. I think that was the case last time as well, at Wrestle Dream. I think they're all tag team matches on the Tailgate Brawl as well. So that's where you get the most of your tag team action. But yeah, I think it's just a case of you continue to further on the Okada Takeshita thing, even though people say it's repeating the same thing, that they obviously don't want to tag together. I think it's just a case of Don Callis is just so convinced that he can get them on the same page that he's just going to consistently put them in tag teams together until they work together, and he gets this super team that he's always wanted between, like, in his mind, the greatest Japanese wrestler of all time, and then the next greatest Japanese wrestler of all time on the same team together. So yeah, El Sky team will win, but it seems like a really fun match on paper.
And I do like overall this Okada Takeshita little bickering kind of thing. Like, I like that Okada attacked Mark Briscoe, and Kyle Fletcher's like, thanks for not agreeing to a no hands on each other type of stipulation with this interview. And Okada's just like, yeah, like it's I'm cool to do it, because Takeshita couldn't. Not necessary. I was really surprised he didn't throw a bitch in there. Paige beats Shibata, this and that, same old stuff. And then we get to the 13th. Is it the 13th or is it the 14th championship?
This is 13 technically, because like she was holding the
interim title,
and now she's held this one to unify the title, so it's still 13.
So if they wanted to, she could be carrying 14, because they could just have her holding the interim title too.
Yeah.
So, unlucky or whatever, number 13, Mercedes Moné beats Red Velvet and wins the undisputed, at this point, ROH Women's World Television Championship. So, tomorrow she's up against Kris Statlander, and that could be number 14/15 belt that she could have. I still stick to the thing. I just assume that Mercedes is winning that too.
Yeah, definitely not. And again, this is just another absolute confirmation about it, because she stood tall at the end of this as well. She's absolutely not winning the title at Full Gear.
I will never fully rule it out, but I don't think she's winning.
Yeah, it's the point of like, of course she could win, but it's a case of, if you're going at a scale of 1 to 100, I'm very much now, I'm 99 on Statlander retaining.
The fact that I normally would be makes me go, okay, I'm probably wrong. Because I have been terribly wrong for some reason this year with particularly women's championship title reigns. I have no idea, but I've had like a complete inability to predict those for like half of the title changes. And some of them are just because it's like, okay, well, they're just doing really stupid things. Like, why is Jordynne Grace losing every fucking thing constantly? And then some other things are like, what do you mean you're gonna, take the belt off at somebody and put the belt off on them again a few weeks later? Or, what's up with Julia winning that title, and she wins the title at the beginning of the year, then she loses it, and then she gets another title later in the year and she doesn't do anything with it and loses it. It's all a kind of insanity. But I'm like, at this point, 2025, I'm just batting a very low record for this. So I'm just going to assume I'm wrong. And I would normally say Mercedes is not going to win, which probably means that she will. Although now that I'm saying that she probably will win, she probably won't. Pick your lane, AEW. Am I right or am I wrong about either of them?
Wow, Tony, such main character energy and ego.
To be fair, I have no proof that I'm not the main character. For all I know, I am. Saw a great TikTok the other day, random aside, of a guy just going up to another guy at like a baseball game or something, sitting down next to him and being like, "Look forward, Agent K," and like whatever, telling him about like this Russian operatives, whatever. Here are your tickets, and he just hands him a normal piece of paper, and like it said something like, making other people feel like the main character. Like, yeah, But speaking of new titles and title changes in the women's division and not knowing what the hell's going on and stuff, Jayne won the NXT Women's Championship back from Tatum Paxley on NXT Gold Rush. And the way that they taped this was a little bit haphazard. So, things got recorded before the NXT broadcast, and then they did that episode, and then they recorded a few things afterward too. So we're just going to hold off on the spoilers until after we talk about the rest of the stuff. But the Gold Rush episode that did air already, break down what we got going on for that. Chelsea Green and Ethan Page retained the AAA Mixed Tag Team titles over Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. I absolutely hate that they start off with, "I believe in Thea Hale," and then it goes into that. It's so bad.
Wait, they're not doing the "I believe in Thea"?
Nope. It's even worse. It's just him saying, I believe in Thea Hale, as if they did one take. And then he was like, oh, I can't put any enthusiasm in it.
Why are they all like that? Welcome to the generation of Jade.
They all have to be like, can you just be monotone? Can you have no enthusiasm whatsoever? That's how we get people to pop. Everybody's just going to come out. I'm Kalani Jordan. But it is what it is. And then every once in a while they do a good song, like Blake Monroe's themes, Catchy as All Hell. It's like, did you just decide that you can only spend energy on one out of every 40 things? But hey, their contract's coming up soon, it seems. So they did a lot on this NXT episode of just having backstage segments where people said, hey, remember, we have that other match. So a lot of it was just, that kind of stuff. Ava announced that the Iron Survivor Challenge competitors for this year will be quote unquote picked all by John Cena. Now, you know what that means? It's not John Cena himself sitting there going, I think that this person and this person should go up against each other or whatever. It's John Cena announcing the names, and maybe he has some kind of say. Maybe he would be like, I think it'd be cool if you added in, I don't know, Javon, or, I really like this.
The most, but it'll be like bland. I believe that Josh Briggs is a powerhouse that could rule WWE for generations.
Right. And, we've seen a lot from Tavion Heights, so the two of them are actually going to be in a qualifying match, and the winner of that goes on. And, Miles Bourne came out and he said that he wants to put his name into the mix for that, so we know that he's going up against Trick Williams, because Trick had came out saying that he wants an NXT championship match. He's not done with that yet. All in a means to set up Ricky Saints and Obafemi are fighting again at NXT Deadline, which I'm not a fan of because I don't see the point whatsoever in having Obafemi lose again, nor do I see the point in Ricky Saints losing, so I think it's a lose-lose.
We're just dragging Obafemi out to the Rumble.
They really are, and he should have just maybe not been around instead of losing again, I think it would have been better for him. So, Femi and Saints, we'll talk about that on the Deadline predictions, but the Iron Survivor Challenge people, we do know who wins that Miles Bourne and Trick Williams match. I'll talk about it on the spoilers. Everybody else is up in the air, and they did not record that in front of anybody. So, they recorded it in front of the people that were recording it, but not in front of the audience. So we'll wait and talk about the specifics of that. But I think that it's, there are only however many names that you can pick. So if he picks a Joe Hendry or somebody from a TNA, it could be interesting. If not, then it's just going to be... Oh, that's right. Yeah, he is part of NXT now. So they could bring in somebody from NXT, from TNA. They could bring in somebody from Evolve. I'm assuming you get the obvious picks of hey, Sol Ruka could be in this match. Zarya could be in this match, etc., etc. Sol Ruka did not win back TNA, that title.
I think that's how Cena forces Cardona into another thing.
Qualifying match or something?
I just think he's going to say who's in the match. I don't think there's even going to be any qualifiers.
Well, there is one. Bourne and Trick.
Well, then why did they announce that Cena's just going to pick the participants?
I have no idea. So I'm assuming that could just be a segment where he says, and since both Bourne and Trick want to be in there, they could fight each other or something. I think that's probably going to be the same when it comes to Heights and Briggs. But according to the spoilers for that was announced as a qualifying match. So Lennox and Griffin retained the tag titles over Javon and Leon Slater. No surprises there. Blake retained the Women's North American Championship. You got some issues between Sol Ruka and Zarya, as per usual. And that was, essentially the episode, other than ending the whole thing with Tatum Paxley being turned on by Izzy Dame, and Jacy Jayne wins the title back. So Tatum is the shortest reigning NXT Women's Champion of all time. It's not even really a transitional reign because she only just transitioned it back to the champion. So I don't really know why they bothered to do that. And I guess it's just kind of, tip of the cap to Tatum and that's it. Maybe they just thought, hey, it would be interesting. And it's not like we haven't done a lot of other stupid stuff this year for just wouldn't it be interesting if blank? Kind of seems like what their only gimmick is now, is to just do that, which I don't like. And, I don't know. Part of me kind of feels like, why not just have Izzy win the title? If you don't feel like she's ready, then why are you putting it back on Jacy? Why? I don't see the point, really. But
no, I'm fine with it. Like, I don't want to see this all the time with every belt, but like, we need to get okay with the idea of, hey, on any given night, anybody can beat anybody. I think that's a smart play moving forward, because that makes you be like, okay, maybe I can tune into this show and feel like something will happen.
But do you like specifically the idea that Tatum lost it to Jacy?
Specifically for this, it seems like the story they were telling is Tatum was obsessed with being a fighting champion. She never gave Izzy a shot at the title, so Izzy's mad. And Jayne now gets to say she's a 2-time champion, which is shocking because she went from being a you're the most beatable champion ever to just kidding, let me join your group, and you're now a 2-time champion. So shout out to Jacy. And I really think Fatal Influence is suffering from the whole, okay, we're keeping people in NXT for too long. Because Jacy in particular, and even Fallon, I guess, they were around when it was like 2.0.
Pre 2.0, I think.
Super gimmicky, like, I'm Fallon Henley and I'm working on the farm, and Tiffany Stratton, you're going to be working on the farm, and Tiffany Stratton has now like wrestled every legend there is to wrestle while Fallon Henley's still in NXT. Stuff like that is weird to me.
It is very weird. Especially when they call up certain people if they have nothing for them, and then with other people they could very easily have something for them and they don't. And I don't see anything that's really separating Fallon from the main roster. You know, Jacy's better than some people on the main roster too. If you can give the women's Intercontinental title to Maxxine Dupri, you can put these two on the main roster. I guess Jacy drops that belt to whoever wins the Iron Survivor Challenge. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's when they come back around to actually doing something with Jordynne Grace, or maybe they just flat out do not want to do that. Maybe it's Lola Vice. Maybe it's whoever. Take a pick. But the NXT Gold Rush stuff for next week, here's their spoiler warning. Spoiler, whatever it might be. There are 2 titles that change hands.
Oh, really?
Jackson Drake retains the title for the Evolve Championship. This is when they woke up and realized that he's not on the roster page. He beats Super Sean Legacy, which to me, again, how many times are you going to have Sean Legacy just be like, I want that belt. I'm the guy that needs to win that belt. I'm the main guy of this whole thing. Fuck, I lost. They are obsessed with this idea that the only way that you can build a champion is by having them fail a bunch of times first. And, it works to build up some kind of, steam, but if you do it every single time, it just makes people look like losers. And I don't really like that. Kendall Gray, of course, retained the women's title over Lainey Reed. That was, she wasn't going to win. Miles Bourne beats Trick Williams to qualify for the Iron Survivor Challenge. So whether Trick gets involved in that as like another roundabout way to get in the match, or he's not in it, or he gets involved in the match despite being in it, I don't know. But at least according to like the reports coming out, Bourne's in the match and Trick isn't necessarily. Lei Ying Lee wins the TNA Knockouts World title.
Are you fucking for real?
Yup. She beats Kalani Jordan and Jordynne Grace by pinning, if I saw the things correctly, by pinning Kalani Jordan after stealing the pin from Jordynne Grace, I should say. As in, Jordynne Grace, once again, is like close but no cigar. We want you to feel like she could win it at any time, but she can't win a goddamn thing. And then let's change the TNA title on an NXT pre-taped show.
Xia Li is the TNA Knockouts champion, huh?
Xia Li, yeah. Xia Li beats Kalani Jordan for an NXT star on an NXT show that's pre-taped for a TNA title. After
Much
the
like the
TNA
Dana Brooke
person
thing where it was
beat her,
like,
and you know,
hey, Dana Brooke finally won a belt in NXT, but it's a TNA belt.
crazy. Again, I don't know why they bothered to do the thing with why give it to Kalani and why turn her heel and then why just switch it back to Lei Ying Lee. If
There you go.
Lee is like, just give it to Lee, you know, like, but then that must be, they have to have this in their head. It has to be like, well, that's too obvious. That's too simple. We have to go and do this roundabout way because instead of just driving from point A to point B, we'd rather go point A to point F and then circle backward because that'll be more interesting. And I don't know, your mileage may vary, especially with the car metaphor right there, but I don't think that that's the coolest and most interesting, best way to do it.
Shout out to Lei Ying Lee, I guess, because what they did a thing on a previous TNA show where they had announced in the ring, like, oh, she signed with us long term. You know, we're so happy to have her on board. So, you know, kudos. Glad she found a path in wrestling.
I thought she was overlooked in WWE to an extent. And between Fallon Henley and Zarya, guess who is the new Speed Women's Champion?
I'm going to say Zarya.
That's Fallon Henley.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So, you know, the story of the let's do all three of the members of Fatal Influence walk out with titles. Lainey Reed didn't. But
yeah, I almost wish they would have just given it to Lainey Reed then.
I don't know how they like which they plan on like airing first and stuff because they taped this in a weird spot. I'm pretty sure that the way that they taped this because they did the 2 Evolve matches first. I'm assuming they did that because that was the warm up because they know people don't care about Evolve. So they do those matches and then they do the other ones and they'll probably just like hack and slash and re-edit it in a different way. So they probably have Fallon win that title and then later they do the Lainey Reed thing and then it's like, oh, she comes up short, but it makes it seem like she's going to win too and all that. At least that's how I would do it if I wanted to try to maximize the, you know, interest level. But, you know, Fallon Henley wins. So that's even more of a reason for Solruka and Zarya to be upset because Solruka didn't win back her title. Zarya said she would win back the Speed title and she failed too. So I say put them both in the Iron Survivor, have them battle it out there. But yeah, title changes out the ass going on.
I had mentioned this to you when we were watching on Tuesday. They have completely killed Zarya's aura as a threat. She's got nothing but feelings. Like, it kind of reminds me of Rhea Ripley when, remember right before she joined Judgment Day where she was just like kind of teaming with Liv Morgan, maybe teaming with Nikki ASH, but she's not like a threat. That's kind of what they're doing with Zarya, and I don't know why.
I think that it's one of those variations of how we always say that they like to do the mandatory heel turn. I think in their minds, they're like, well, we need to see that you've got more depth than just being this, like, you know, monster.
Why?
So,
Why can't you just be good at what you... Whatever.
I don't know. But then you got Obafemi coming out and he does his little strut. So sometimes it works. It's one of my favorite things in NXT and it's so stupid, but hey, it works. He comes out and I'm just kind of sitting there like just sort of like jostling a little back and forth. They better not change this theme when he comes up the main roster. They probably fucking will. But yeah, that's the NXT Gold Rush side of those things, and those are the last hot tags that I had down. So anything else that we forgot about that you guys can think of?
I can't think of anything at the moment. What about you, Cal?
Nothing that I feel like is necessary to talk about at this point.
Alrighty, so you know the deal. Make sure that you stay tuned. Make sure you follow all the things that we've got going on in the link tree at the amangotree.com or anthonymango.com links that you can find. Smark Out Moment stuff there. You can find Fanboys Anonymous stuff there and my own personal stuff. And follow Robin Callum too.
Yep, follow me everywhere, Dude Felice, and check out one of the fan tracks that we did or something. Check out the Naked Gun fan track.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances, and then head on over to the Fantasy League, also at WWEFantasyLeague.com, to see how our rosters are doing and who's picking up points on the road to Survivor Series, where the WarGames match there'll be a lot of points up for grabs for the winners. The losers won't get any points. Kind of how it works.
Wait a minute. The losers don't win? What are you talking about? I thought I was signing up for that. Annoyed at all hell that I was waiting for that AJ Lee title win. But
yeah, could have Maxxine Dupri all this time. She would have been on TV as well.
Yeah. Oh, man. I missed out. I'll come back around at some point. Who knows? But the game plan, of course, as I mentioned before at the beginning of this, I am not going to be doing a post-show following Full Gear. I will still put up the results. I just will be a little bit late on doing that. And, at some point in the future, we'll talk about what happens on there, because there are some big things that are happening. Like, we know for a fact that there's going to be at least one new championship crowned, because there is no champion for the national title yet. So maybe Mercedes ends up winning that belt. Maybe we get Brodito dropping their titles. Maybe Mark Briscoe wins. I don't know. It's all going to be, kind of up in the air. But check the live coverage while you can. And stay tuned to the next podcasts that are coming your way and all the things that are coming up with the next pay-per-views. We got Deadline. We got Survivor Series before even Deadline starts and all. So next week, we will be doing our predictions for Survivor Series and then a post-show following that show and everything. And another round of the hot tags and stuff. So collect those thoughts, drop your comments below, and make sure you're subscribed, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.